Show today, and we'll see what happened between the Guardians and the Tigers.
It's the Kenny and JT Show, weekdays between 3 and 7 on WHBC.
Live from the WHBC Broadcast Center. Find out more about area businesses, agencies, and events.
It's what's going on right now.
This is Spotlight.
And it is a Wednesday morning, and that means Spotlight right here on 1480 WHBC. And today we're going to talk about the annual Revolutionary War reenactment at Fort Lawrence. And we have in studio with us this morning Dante Weissend, who is the site coordinator for ZOR and Fort Lawrence. How are you, sir?
Good. Yourself, Pam?
Doing great. Glad to have you this morning. So before we get into what's coming up this weekend, let's talk a little bit about you and how you came to Fort Lawrence and a little bit about your background.
All right. So I'll start. I've been involved in history, volunteering in different things since about 2016 when I was 17. So going on 8 years now in my hometown down at Granville. I went to college over at Heidelberg University in Tiffin for history. So I have my bachelor's in history from there. Of course, dabbled in different things there as it's a private college, but focused mostly on history, and that's why I got my degree in. When I got out, I worked in finance for a little while, pay the bills kind of thing, until you can get into what your actual field is. And about a year ago, I applied for and got a position as a tour guide for ZOR in Fort Lawrence. Worked doing that for about 9-10 months, and then the person previous to me left to go take position at another historic site, and they offered me the site manager position at Fort Lawrence, combined with the assistant site director at ZOR. It's a two-part position, and I said yes, and that's how I've ended up here.
That's awesome. So with Fort Lawrence, and did you know anything about Fort Lawrence or ZOR prior to coming here at all?
Aside from the one visit I did when we moved up here in 2018, no, I did not know anything about ZOR or Fort Lawrence. Fort Lawrence was the first historic site I visited when we moved up here, but I knew nothing about ZOR.
Yeah.
I learned all of that as soon as I got my job there.
Yeah, and that's, I'm not from here, but I've lived here a long time. I might as well be from here now. But when I first came here and started to learn about Fort Lawrence and ZOR, I was amazed by it. It's just such an awesome, history-rich place.
Right, absolutely. And it's just kind of tucked away here in eastern Ohio. You kind of hear about it on the periphery every now and then, but for Fort Lawrence, especially being the only Revolutionary War fort in the state of Ohio, of course, I'm biased for it. I work there. I want to say it's a big deal, but it is important to the history of the region and of our state, and I think it can get overlooked sometimes.
Yeah, and for people who are interested in history, it's an important place, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The fort itself only existed for about 9 months, but those 9 months are extremely indicative of life on the American and warfare on the American frontier at the time, which Ohio was the frontier at the time. It was the Wild West of its day, basically.
Talk about those 9 months. Explain a little bit about that.
So, Fort Lawrence was actually supposed to just be a small part of a larger expedition. The Western U.S., or what would become the United States, so at the time, Western Pennsylvania, the very eastern part of Ohio, and that area was being raided by Native Americans and British troops who the British headquarters was Fort Detroit in modern-day Detroit, and the British were funneling weaponry and money and things over to the Native Americans who were then attacking the Continentals in the western part of the U.S. So a plan was devised to build a series of outposts and forts to create a route for an invasion to capture Fort Detroit from Fort Pitt, which is modern-day Pittsburgh. Fort Lawrence is the second of said forts. It was built in the winter to house a small garrison over winter to then be resupplied and be a supply base for the eventual attack on Fort Detroit. They had so much trouble supplying the fort, up to and including a siege, that actually ran the garrison out of food to the point where they were boiling their moccasins to eat.
Oh, my gosh.
It was decided eventually that the fort was too hard to supply, and it wasn't achieving the goals that it had that had been laid out for it, so it was abandoned in August of 1779.
Wow. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And in history, from when you try to picture what that could be back in that time, from Pittsburgh, Fort Pitt to here to Detroit, that's, it's almost hard to imagine in your mind.
Yeah, for us, it's a 4 or 5 hour drive.
Yes.
But,
Yeah.
I mean, it was estimated the marching to Fort Lawrence would take, I don't even know a number, but it's certainly longer than even just a couple of days.
Yeah.
And it's because there were no roads. There was the Great Trail, but it wasn't large enough to handle a full-scale army. So you're marching a lot of the time through what we see as wilderness that wasn't trailed and marked the same way that we're used to handle wagons and things like that at the time. So it was a rough go of it to get even what we would consider such a short distance.
Yeah, right. So, and I don't even know how to really ask this, but when did they decide to mark Fort Lawrence, as it is today, where people can go and look at it and that kind of thing?
So the modern museum and kind of the general setup the way it is now really came about in the mid to late 1970s.
Okay.
Which is when the last major archaeological dig was done was in the 70s, and then again in the early to mid 80s. The museum was built in the 70s. That's actually when they discovered the precise location of where the fort was.
Okay.
They thought it was a little bit further, what would that be, north than it is, by I don't know, maybe 100 or 200 yards, if I remember correctly. I could be getting the number wrong. But they thought it was in a different location. When they started the dig, they actually discovered where it was and had to move all of where they were digging to accommodate precisely where the fort was. Wow. It's marked on different maps and actually appears in newspapers as early as the 18 teens.
Okay.
We found reference to it clear as far back as 1816 as a marker for local land disputes and things like that, selling off land for farmers and things like that. But marked today as with the museum and everything is really about 50 years, we'll call it.
Okay. And we know, and Fort Lawrence is mostly what we're going to be talking about today because of the reenactment that comes up this weekend. But Zor is in all of this as well, right?
Yes. Both sites are managed by the Zor Community Association, who, of course, is stationed in Zor, and their primary goal was and has been to preserve and educate people on the history of Zor. But they took over Fort Lawrence a number of years ago, and they now run both sites. That's why my position has two titles, is because I help out with both sites.
All right. And Zor has its own history, too.
Yes, Zor has its own incredibly deep and rich history going as far back as 1817. So.
Wow. And I know that both places, that's when you have schools and you have people come and visit and the tours and all of the events.
Yes, we just got May as our big school day month, especially for Zor. We had all kinds of local schools come out. I don't have any numbers for them, so I won't try and speak on precisely how many. But, I mean, we were busy at least 2 or 3 days a week with at least one large school for the entire month of May.
Yeah, and I would imagine it's pretty amazing for kids to see this.
Well, it helps. It helps put history in context. It's not words on a page. You can actually go and see this is what, life would have looked like at the time, especially when we have people who are dressed in period clothing. I have my own set that when I'm out there for doing demonstrations and things I wear. Really gets you in the mindset to recognize what life was like, because I think we can view it as words on a page. It doesn't always come to life, and that's really what's unique about Zor, and especially coming up with the Fort Lawrence reenactment, bringing history to life to show people what it was like, not just tell people.
What got you interested in history? You majored in history.
Yes.
What took you there?
That's a hard question. It's really hard to remember a time I wasn't at least interested in it. I can remember even as far back as even before I was a teenager going down to Williamsburg and Jamestown and things like that. I grew up on a family farm we've been there since the 40s, and a lot of it was family history. I learned a lot about my great-grandfather who was in World War II and things like that. and the history of our farm, where we had buildings dating back to the 1860s
Okay.
on our farm that we used as barns and things. So being surrounded by it, in some people it creates almost an aversion to it, where, okay, I've seen a bunch of history, I want to go do something else, and that's fine. Everyone has their own interests in life, but for me, being around it was really what got me into it, was living through it for so long.
Yeah. And that's like my father was very much like that. He took all of us everywhere, you know, to see things. And I welcome that, you know, that was a wonderful part of growing up, to be able to learn that firsthand and see things. Cause when you mentioned Williamsburg, I have a vision in my head from when I was younger, you know, so that's a very good thing. We're going to take our first break. And when we come back, we're going to tell you about the big event that's happening this weekend as we continue talking about Fort Lawrence on Spotlight right here on 1480 WHBC.
Oh, news, but I think just to be aware of what's going on.
It's more locally oriented, which I like.
Dad and I spent a lot of hours growing up listening to 1480.
You know, I think everyone should listen to
1480 WHBC.
Take a trip through time to the American Revolution this Saturday and Sunday, July 13th and 14th, during the Revolution on the Tuscarawas at the Fort Lawrence Museum in Bolivar. This unique, immersive experience includes artillery demonstrations performed by reenactors, 18th century music, and traditional cooking of the time. Tickets are $10 for adults and free for children 12 and under. Log on to fortlawrencemuseum.com for more information.
Pre-order the new Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 6 and Z Flip 6 powered by Galaxy AI with Spectrum-free anytime upgrade. Use Circle to search with Google to see more and search more on the large Z Fold 6 screen. Or capture perfectly framed pics using FlexCam and Z Flip 6. Pre-order through Spectrum and get up to $1,000 off, plus double the storage on us. Hurry! Offer ends July 23rd. Visit a Spectrum store or SpectrumMobile.com today. Offer subject to change. Valid for qualified residential customers only. Service not available in all areas. Restrictions apply.
If you've got unneeded furniture, appliances, home decor, or building materials, Habitat Restore in Canton can help. With free donation pickup, you'll clear out space while saving time and effort. And every donated item helps local families build homes with Habitat for Humanity. It's easy to schedule your free donation pickup. Visit restoreeco.org or call 330-915-5920. Free donation pickup from Habitat Restore in Canton, the store that builds homes.
Where can you get great lunch at an affordable price? Pete's Restaurant, of course. Everything is made from scratch using the freshest ingredients. The lunch menu is amazing with so many choices of melts, wraps, and paninis. Plus, there are salads, burgers, and sandwiches. Simply delicious. Check it out online at PetesOnTusk.com. Then head out for lunch today. Pete's on Tusk in the Country Fair Shopping Center. Good food, outstanding service, and great prices. That's what you find at Pete's Restaurant.
This is Mike Frazier, Senior Pastor at Canton Baptist Temple. I would like to personally invite you to worship with us at 10:15 this Sunday morning in our worship center located at 515 Whipple Avenue in Canton, Ohio. If you cannot be with us in person, please tune in to our broadcast right here on WHBC at 8:30 on Sunday mornings. For more information about our ministries, you can visit us at cantonbaptist.org. We look forward to meeting you soon.
So you got a little trouble with your credit score? Well, here's a little tip so you won't anymore. Pick out your card, fill out a form. That's all you need to know, and off you'll go. Progressive Auto Group in Massillon. ProgressiveAutoGroup.com.
Do you have less than perfect credit? Get auto loan approval with our credit amnesty program at Progressive.
Progressive Auto Group in Massillon. ProgressiveAutoGroup.com.
We understand how to cope with poor credit. When you're prepared to begin the process of buying a new or used vehicle, Progressive Auto Group is here to assist you. It's easy as 1, 2, 3. Go to ProgressiveAutoGroup.com. Select your vehicle, complete the credit amnesty application, and you'll receive a call to finalize the details. Find your credit amnesty at Progressive and get pre-qualified in less than 5 minutes.
Progressive Auto Group in Massillon. ProgressiveAutoGroup.com.
Get a fresh start today.
My son loves to fly kites, but my active psoriatic arthritis can sometimes hold me back. Now with Skyrizi to treat my skin and joints, I'm ready to go. Skyrizi, risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults, helps with less joint pain, stiffness, swelling, and fatigue. For those who also have plaque psoriasis, 90% clearer skin is possible with just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
With Skyrizi, there's nothing like clearer skin and better movement, and that means everything. Ask your doctor about Skyrizi today and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
The light is fading, your hands are sore, and the last tool's been put away. Now is the time to feel the satisfaction that comes with a job well done. But when you get your tools from Harbor Freight, something about the job feels a little different. Your wallet. Because we believe that everyone deserves hardworking tools at hardworking prices. And that's what we have here. So, whatever you do it for less at Harbor Freight.
Hey, it's Jim Michaels. If you have an Alexa, all you have to do is say, "Hey, Alexa, play 1480 WHBC."
Just ask Alexa.
Hey, Alexa, play 1480 WHBC.
Now back to Spotlight on 1480 WHBC.
It is a Wednesday morning and Spotlight here on 1480 WHBC. Don't forget we are live on Facebook at this very moment if you want to check that out. And if you miss anything, obviously you can go to Facebook and check out the video later on today. I'm just taking a quick look at the extended forecast for outside of Friday. I just wanted to see what the weather is going to look like on Saturday and on Sunday. And I was just telling Dante that it was looking like upper 80s. It is 88 degrees for both Saturday and Sunday.
Okay.
All right. So that's kind of where we sit. We'll tell you why we were thinking about the weather forecast, because coming up at Fort Lawrence on Saturday and Sunday is your annual Revolutionary War reenactment.
Yes.
And this is with the Brigade of the American Revolution.
Correct. Yes. They will be supplying the bulk of the troops for the reenactment.
Okay, so tell us how many years that this has been taking place at Fort Lawrence.
So it has, of course, grown and or shrunk over the years, depending on visitation and things like that. But more or less, the Revolution on the Tuscarawas has existed in some form or another for about 50 years, but it's been going on regularly for about 25 or 30 at this point. So we have multi-generational reenactors now at this point who come every year, who their parents or even grandparents in some cases reenacted in the really early days at Fort Lawrence, who are now reenacting for us.
So the whole thing starts on Saturday. How does it all begin? Like, tell us, if I were to attend, what would I see?
So the first thing you would see is that you have to stop and pay to get in.
Mm-hmm. Okay, there, good point.
So, yes, you do have to, you can't just drive in, park wherever you want, and walk around. We do charge $10 for anyone who's an adult, and then I believe it's 12 and under, I believe, are free.
Okay.
I'll post a general schedule up on the website, the exact same, or on the Facebook page for Fort Lawrence, the exact same schedule that I have. You'll see an encampment around the fort and the museum, and then off kind of to one side of what is the driveway, essentially. You'll see encampments of the American troops and the British troops, and we will have both sides represented at Fort Lawrence when coming up.
Okay. And so people, once they pay to get in, then they can walk around and just kind of check things out.
Yep, you're allowed to walk around, check things out. There will be a program with the schedule on it as well to show what times things will be happening, when certain demonstrations will be happening, because we will have people that will go over different things like 19th or 18th century cooking, musicians which is not the type of musicians that you're expecting, not playing like tavern songs or anything like that. They might do a little bit of that, but most of it's going to be around the actual army musicians who we will probably have an example of at least one of each for the British and the Americans, if not more. I don't know the specific layout of which type of reenactors, so I'm not going to try and speak to that. But yeah, there will be, like I said, there will be a schedule laid out exactly how, Bob's been doing this for almost 50 years at this point, not with just us, but with other sites. So he's going to set it up, and I have full trust that it'll be a great event regardless of weather or anything like that.
Right. Because, hey, they had the Revolutionary War, whether it rained or was sunny, correct?
Yes, they did.
And so we were mentioning the weather and the heat because they'll be wearing their wool uniforms.
Yes, the traditional uniform of the time would have been wool. So they're going to be out there full dress, two to three layers is a general idea for how thick the clothing will be. And I'm sure any of the troops will be more than happy to talk about what the uniform actually entails. But yeah, I certainly could. I would have a hard time doing it one day, much less the 2 days that they're going to.
And you were also saying that some of them actually will stay in the encampment. They will live the life for 2 days.
Yes, some of the soldiers who are there will stay in the tents that you will be seeing. So they will be, if they get there Saturday morning, they'll be there until Sunday afternoon when they pack up to go home.
Wow. And these are people who do this all the time, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a hobby. They do this, of course, in the summer it's more active, but they do this a few weekends a year at the very least for different reenactments and things as, time and work permits. I mean, these are people who work for a living, and they take their time out of their lives to come up and do something like this for us. And I know being a person involved in history, that would be rewarding in its own right, but that's a lot of work to do. You get off work at Friday at 6 o'clock, sleep, get up at, say 4 in the morning to be there in time to set everything up, and then you're on the entire time you're there until you get back home. Sunday night, go to bed, wake up for work. So eternally grateful for all of the reenactors who are willing to put in that type of work and effort for us.
And for the general public, what time is it open for them to visit?
We open at 10 o'clock on both days.
Okay. And it's done by, usually, is there a time when it's over?
Usually by about 4:30, 5-ish. Again, there will be a program the day that you get there, and I'll post the actual schedule up on the Fort's Facebook page. So I encourage you guys to go to the Fort Lawrence website, fortlawrencemuseum.org, or the Fort Lawrence Facebook page, just to make sure, in case I slipped up and gave a wrong time for something, it will be correct on there.
Yeah, and you can check that out and find out more information about it. And we're going to talk more. We'll take our break for the news, and I want to find out, how many soldiers are there going to be, and are they going to actually, what do they do in a reenactment? I mean, what do they reenact? That's what we want to know. We'll talk more about this with Dante Wyson from Fort Lawrence, the site coordinator for ZOR in Fort Lawrence, on Spotlight on 1480 WHBC.
Take a trip through time to the American Revolution this Saturday and Sunday, July 13th and 14th during the Revolution on the Tuscarawas at the Fort Lawrence Museum in Bolivar. This unique immersive experience includes artillery demonstrations performed by reenactors, 18th century music, and traditional cooking of the time. Tickets are $10 for adults and free for children 12 and under. Log on to fortlawrencemuseum.com for more information.
The FlexSteel 4th of July sale is going on now at Casey's Furniture. Hi, I'm Jim Casey of Casey's Furniture, inviting you to save on FlexSteel in stock and custom orders now through July 12th. This is the perfect time to buy and save an extra 10% on FlexSteel reclining and stationary upholstered furniture in fabric and leather. Save on sofas, love seats, sectionals, and chairs. Browse freely through our FlexSteel gallery and see the quality of FlexSteel furniture. Be sure to sit down and feel the comfort. Our knowledgeable salespeople are here to help you without being pushy. Casey's Furniture, 7170 Portage Street, 2.8 miles west of I-77, at exit 111, the Strip exit in Jackson Township. Enjoy Star-Spangled Savings during the Flex Deal 4th of July sale, now through July 12th at Casey's Furniture. Visit us at caseysfurniture.com.
Purchase a twin tank water softener from Verndale Water Experts and you'll get $250 off, a free reverse osmosis drinking water system, and 0% financing. Call Verndale Water Experts today.
Tap into Verndale's Water Center.
WHBC AM Canton, reliable as ever on News Talk 1480 WHBC.
From the News Talk 1480 WHBC newsroom, just as a reminder, those of you traveling in the Akron area will be looking for a detour now that a major bridge project has the highway interchange closed for several weeks. ODOT closing the ramp from Route 8 south to I-76 east. It'll be closed through late August for bridge reconstruction. It's part of ODOT's Akron Beltway construction project that's been underway since 2021. The U.S. Department of Transportation selected the Stark Area Regional Transit Authority as a recipient of over $17 million through the Bus and Bus Facilities Grant Program. That funding will support the SARTA Equitable Zero Emission Transit Infrastructure Upgrade. SARTA will use the funds to purchase and install hydrogen refueling infrastructure, improve clean access points, upgrade the facility for solar energy, and establish a workforce training program focused on clean transit. The efforts will improve rider safety, accessibility, and usability, and will support Ohio's long-term plan for a transition to clean energy. SARTA CEO Kirk Conrad says it's the largest grant they've ever received. Carjackings are still a problem in Washington, D.C., but someone picked the wrong car Friday morning. An 18-year-old reportedly pointed a handgun at a person sitting in his vehicle around 1:15 a.m. in an apparent carjacking attempt. But the person in the vehicle was a U.S. Marshal, one of two sitting outside the apartment of Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor. Both marshals fired their weapons, with one shooting the suspect in the jaw. In sports, the Cleveland Guardians beat Detroit 9-8 last night. Another game is scheduled for this evening. 6:40 is the first pitch, and you'll hear it right here on 1480 WHBC. I'm Pam Cook.
Your severe weather station, News Talk 1480 WHBC.
Here's your AccuWeather forecast. Clouds and humid, shower and thunderstorm in spots as tropical rainstorm Beryl goes by today. That could also give us an isolated tornado, the high 82. Shower and thunderstorm from Beryl tonight, otherwise partly to mostly cloudy, low 64. Clouds and sun, less humid tomorrow, the high at 78. Partly sunny, warmer Friday, the high 88. Get your weather news when you want it from AccuWeather.com. I'm Steve Williams for News Talk 1480 WHBC.
Our daughter Jessie loves playing detective.
But since we discovered she has sensitive skin, we've been playing detective too.
We thought the problem was our puppy.
But it was actually our old detergent. So we switched to Tide Free and Gentle.
Tide Free and Gentle has no dyes or perfumes, so it's gentle on her skin.
If it's gotta be clean, it's gotta be Tide Free and Gentle. This back-to-school season, Tide and Downy are giving back with $1.5 million in scholarships. Enter to win. No purchase necessary. US/DC 17+. End September 30th. Rules. Tide.com/scholarship/official rules.
Getting quality employees to fill positions in your company is essential, but finding those people can be a major hassle unless you use ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter makes finding quality people a breeze. ZipRecruiter's advanced technology identifies candidates with the right skills, sends you great matches, then you can easily invite them to apply. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. See for yourself. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/free to try ZipRecruiter for free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Let's take a look at what's happening right now on the WHBC YouTube. Look who's cooking. With Hall of Fame Enshrinement Week coming up, Pam Cook previews some of the great meals being served by Certified Angus Beef. You can also find the latest in health and wellness with Pam being joined by Dr. Stan Anderson. Latest discussions have included diabetes treatment, nutrition labels, and scams to avoid. Just search 1480 WHBC YouTube and be sure to subscribe.
Now back to Spotlight on 1480 WHBC.
All right, right, we continue Spotlight this morning, and we're talking with Dante Wiesand, who is the site coordinator for Fort Lawrence and also for Zor. And we've been talking about the annual Revolutionary War reenactment with the Brigade of the American Revolution. And we talked about demonstrations like music and artillery and cooking and all kinds of stuff. $10 for adults, free for children 12 and under. And the money that you guys collect, you use that for different things, correct?
That is what allows us as a historic site to continue. So any renovations that need done, anything like, well, not renovations. I should back up on that one. What keeps us going in our day-to-day expenses is what this money will go towards. So it goes towards us preserving and then educating people on the history.
Yeah, educational efforts. That's always a really big, important part of what you do,
Yes.
right? And I was just looking at the Facebook page. If you want to check out the Facebook page, Fort Lawrence Museum, just search Fort Lawrence Museum, and you'll find them on Facebook. And a lot of great comments about the reenactment. It says, this coming Saturday and Sunday, stop by Fort Lawrence to watch Revolutionary War history come to life. It is well worth the drive. So that's somebody that comes from out of town. So I would imagine you have a lot of visitors come.
Yeah, we'll have visitors come from pretty far around. I mean, with any historic site, you have people that come from out of town, out of state. Sometimes you might even get out of country if they happen to be in the area at the time.
Do we let the British in?
Yes, we do. Yes. Yes, if you're British, you're welcome to come.
Very
you just
good.
have to stand with the redcoats. No, I'm just kidding. No.
That's what I was just going to ask you. So, because you were talking about, there will be British soldiers and American soldiers, and so how do you tell the difference in their uniforms?
Generally speaking, they'll be divided into camps, so it'll be pretty easy to see on that day. Generally speaking, a continental American soldier will be dressed in a blue coat, and a British will be dressed in a red coat.
In a red coat.
However, the musicians who actually lead the troops are swapped.
No kidding.
Yes.
Okay.
So you'll be able to
like confusion for us older people.
So you'll be able, once you get there, you can ask all about what each uniform means, because each uniform has a specific meaning to it, and they'll be more than happy to talk about that.
Yes, I mean, there's a lot of questions when I'm looking at some pictures right now, and obviously, I know, especially for young kids, they will look at this. I'm sure they'll have tons of questions to ask.
And young people are more than welcome to come. We cater for all ages.
Yeah, it's a family event. This
Yes.
would be. So, is there going to actually be a battle? I think that's another question.
There will be a skirmish.
A
yes.
skirmish.
We have a good turnout this year. I've been told that we're getting between 80 and 90 reenactors out this year.
That is good.
So I don't know how they're going to be divided, but let's make it easy on ourselves. Take the 90 number, divide it in half, 45 for each side. Battles are generally bigger, so we refer to this, at least internally, as a skirmish. But yes, and it'll be on the schedule, but 3:15 Saturday and Sunday, the troops will go out into our big cleared field, and they won't actually be firing any projectiles, but they'll be loading powder, and they'll be firing like they're at a small version of a larger battle would have been at the time.
So you'll see powder come out of there.
You'll see powder and fire and smoke and everything.
Call them guns or muskets? What do we call them?
Muskets.
Muskets.
You can call them guns, but generally it'll be muskets.
Okay. And the powder is
black powder.
Is black powder.
Yes.
Okay.
And there's any of the soldiers, I'm sure, will be happy to talk about, or there may even be a demonstration on how the guns of the time worked, so that you can get a better idea before the battle what exactly you're looking at and why sometimes they seem to be moving or acting a little bit slower than you would expect. And a lot of that's based around the weaponry and tactics of the era.
Okay, yeah. I mean, they have to reload, correct?
Yes.
So that would be something, obviously, that they would maybe demonstrate ahead of time?
Potentially ahead of time, but definitely during the skirmish. They will be reloading several times, I'm sure, in the on the schedule at least 30 minutes dedicated to the skirmish. So
yeah, and this is pretty amazing when you look at them. And like you said, they're going to be dressed in layers.
Mm-hmm.
This is a situation where we're going to have 88 degrees.
Yep.
It's going to be very warm for them.
Probably high humidity because it's July in Ohio.
Mm-hmm, exactly. But if you are looking for something that's not only very fun and I think kind of just cool to watch, but very educational as well. This is certainly a great thing for people to do. Are there other things that they can do at Fort Lawrence besides watch all of this? Is there anything else open or?
The museum will be open as well.
Okay.
So you can go in and see the museum, and the museum is air conditioned.
Aha!
So you may spend a little bit of time in there just to cool off at the very least. The Fort outline will be there. A number of us actual Fort Lawrence staff or volunteers will be there. So you can ask questions about that. A number of the reenactors know that history back to front probably better than I do.
Yeah.
So if you want to ask about the history of Fort Lawrence, go ahead. If you want to ask general revolutionary questions, I mean, there's almost no better time for those questions than here because you're going to be surrounded by almost 100 experts on this time period. So,
yeah, and history buffs, maybe there's part of something that you don't know, right?
Yeah, right. I mean, there's always more to learn with history, so it's worth coming if you just want to learn that. We have a number of books for sale in our gift shop around the Revolutionary War, even going into the War of 1812 and different things, and earlier into the French and Indian War. So we have a number of educational resources there. If you want to look for a book, if you have someone who's a history buff that you don't quite know what to get them for their birthday or something,
yeah,
we've got books reasonably priced there. You can come take a look and get something new for them.
And probably should let folks know, how do they actually get there to Fort Lawrence?
The address is 11067 Fort Lawrence Road. I think it's road, not drive. It's in Bolivar. If you're coming off of 77 and you're going into Bolivar, there's the Marathon Station, and then there's that three-ways T. If you stop at that and take a left and go down the road, maybe a half mile, you'll see the Fort Lawrence, the blue and gray state historic site sign for Fort Lawrence.
That's very easy.
Yep.
Very easy to find. So that's if you're coming south from Canton.
If you're
coming north.
If
you come south and you get off at the interstate, you turn left towards Bolivar.
Yep. Get off at the Bolivar exit. If you're coming south, you'll of course turn right. Go into Bolivar.
Oh, go okay.
Because if you go
right, not towards Zor.
Right.
Towards Bolivar.
Yes.
Okay. Gotcha. And then say it again. The T.
And then at the T, if you're coming from the interstate, left.
Okay. Very good.
And that'll.
It's not Giant Place, people.
Yeah. If you've gotten to the railroad tracks on Fort Lawrence Road, you've gone too far.
Okay. All right. There you go. So you should be able to find it very simply. And there's all kinds of, wonderful things to see at the museum, as you were saying. And, if you want to go in there for a little respite before the skirmish happens, right? But there, like you said, there will be a list of timing and on everything for people to take a look at, and they can find all of that. So they can make sure, they get down there and are able to witness all of that stuff.
See what you want to see, and if there's only specific things you want to see, make sure you don't miss them.
And I would imagine that the soldiers will be very approachable, prior to the skirmish later in the afternoon, but that you can just walk up to them and say, hi, my son was asking about this.
Yeah, there'll be, maybe if they're doing something like building a fire, you maybe not want to interrupt them doing that, or cleaning one of their muskets or something like that. But if you see a soldier who's, just kind of standing around or sitting around, they're there to look like an encampment, so there will be people who are just kind of sitting around. If they're out doing a drill where a unit's moving around, don't go up and try and pull someone out of the unit, please.
Yeah, that's not a good idea. Don't do that.
But if they're just sitting there not doing anything, feel free to ask questions. And, of course, any of the staff or volunteers that'll be there, Especially staff will be in our blue polo shirts with either Fort Lawrence or Zor on the left side of the chest. So anyone you see in those clothes, feel free to ask directions, timing, how much something is in the gift shop, or just in general questions about what's going on or anything like that. I'm sure anyone would be more than happy to help you and answer.
Yeah, and any of the demonstrations, obviously, you can, that's what they're there for, to stand by and take a look and watch and enjoy and ask questions for sure. So, all right, we'll talk more about some of the other things that you can see and witness at Fort Lawrence. So we'll take our final break and talk more with Dante Wiesen from Fort Lawrence, site coordinator for Fort Lawrence and Zor, as Spotlight continues here on 1480 WHBC.
1480 WHBC has always been there for you.
Thank you for being a voice of calm and correct information in a world of chaos and misinformation.
News Talk 1480 WHBC.
Take a trip through time to the American Revolution this Saturday and Sunday, July 13th and 14th during the Revolution on the Tuscarawas at the Fort Lawrence Museum in Bolivar. This unique immersive experience includes artillery demonstrations performed by reenactors, 18th century music, and traditional cooking of the time. Tickets are $10 for adults and free for children 12 and under. Log on to fortlawrencemuseum.com for more information.
Tune in each Saturday morning at 8 a.m. for the Money Matters radio show. Hosts Bob Foudy and David Ryan help you make your money matter. Find out how today's economy, debt levels, and policies affect your hard-earned money. You've made your money. Now it's time to watch it grow. Tune in to the hour-long Money Matters radio show every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. right here on News Talk 1480 WHBC. To speak to Bob Foudy or Dave Ryan about your money matters, call New Horizon Financial Group in Canton at 330-499-1915. 330-499-1915.
Village Baptist Temple in North Canton would like to invite children ages 4 to 12 to our Vacation Bible School starting Wednesday, July 17th through Sunday, July 21st. For more information and registration, please check out our Facebook page and website at villagebaptisttemple.com. We are looking forward to a great time at Revival Ranch.
Oh no, stomach issues again?
Stomach issues?
Who are you?
Your pancreas. I could be the real reason for your diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose oily stools.
I thought it was my stomach.
People often do, but any of these symptoms could mean having a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and speak with your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
Did you know you can get your prescriptions for less at your local pharmacy? You can with GoodRx. It's the free app that can save you money on your medications. Just search for your prescription, choose the pharmacy and the price that works best for you, and then show your GoodRx coupon to your pharmacist at the drop-off counter. GoodRx works at over 70,000 pharmacies, including Walmart, Rite Aid, and Walgreens, and it works whether you have insurance or not. It's easy to save. Next time you drop off your prescription, check GoodRx. To start saving today, go to GoodRx.com. GoodRx is not insurance.
This is the story of a very special woman. Just a few knew about her superpowers. In a matter of seconds, she turned herself into a great mathematician. She masqueraded as a regular person at work, but as a superhero at home. Everyone knows her as Gabriella. I still call her Mom.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need to help, complete with tips and resources at aarp.org/caregiving. Brought to you by AARP and the...
My son loves to fly kites, but my active psoriatic arthritis can sometimes hold me back. Now with Skyrizi to treat my skin and joints, I'm ready to go. Skyrizi, risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults, helps with less joint pain, stiffness, swelling, and fatigue. For those who also have plaque psoriasis, 90% clearer skin is possible with just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
With Skyrizi, there's nothing like clearer skin and better movement, and that means everything. Ask your doctor about Skyrizi today and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKY-RIZZI to learn more.
The light is fading, your hands are sore, and the last tool's been put away. Now is the time to feel the satisfaction that comes with a job well done. But when you get your tools from Harbor Freight, something about the job feels a little different. Your wallet. Because we believe that everyone deserves hardworking tools at hardworking prices. And that's what we have here. So, whatever you do, do it for less at Harbor Freight.
Our daughter Jessie loves playing detective.
But since we discovered she has sensitive skin, we've been playing detective too.
We thought the problem was our puppy.
But it was actually our old detergent. So we switched to Tide Free and Gentle.
Tide Free and Gentle has no dyes or perfumes, so it's gentle on her skin.
If it's gotta be clean, it's gotta be Tide Free and Gentle. This back-to-school season, Tide and Downy are giving back with $1.5 million in scholarships. Enter to win. No purchase necessary. US/DC 17+. End September 30th. Rules. Tide.com/scholarship/official rules.
Oh, news. I think just to be aware of what's going on.
It's more locally oriented, which I like.
Dad and I spent a lot of hours growing up listening to 1480.
You know, I think everyone should listen to
1480 WHBC.
Now back to Spotlight on 1480 WHBC.
All right, our final segment of Spotlight on this Wednesday morning, and we have been talking about a wonderful event that's going to take place this Saturday and Sunday at Fort Lawrence, and Dante Wiesen is the site coordinator for Fort Lawrence and Zor, and we've been just kind of chatting about this annual Revolutionary War reenactment with the Brigade of the American Revolution. So the brigade is the group of the reenactors. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay,
they are their own organization of reenactors who go to different historic sites and reenact.
So they've done this before.
Yes. Once or twice.
Yeah. So this is going to be very, I would imagine it's exciting. It's probably like a thrilling thing for them. They,
I would imagine. I know for me as someone for history, it's going to be awesome just to watch them. And I've tossed around the idea of reenacting before. And like I said, they take time out of their work days, and sometimes will even take vacation and things like that to come to these reenactments.
Yeah.
So when they're there, if you just want to thank them for being there, I know I will be endless. They're gonna get tired of hearing the term "thank you" for being there, because I'm gonna say it to them like every time I see them.
Yeah.
Because we could not do it without them.
How do they learn to do the reenactment? How does that happen?
So a lot of learning what to actually do is based on either older reenactors who have been doing it for a while.
This is a statewide test of the Ohio Emergency Alert System, originating from the State Emergency Operations Center in Columbus. This is only a test. The Ohio Emergency Alert System is designed to provide the public with timely warnings and emergency information. Had this been an actual emergency, you would have received instructions and information related to that emergency over this and other stations in your area. This concludes this test of the Ohio Emergency Alert System.
I almost called the soldiers with their muskets. No, I'm kidding. No. Okay, so we were saying about how do they learn to do this? Yeah.
So learning from people who have been doing it, or a lot of the times they go to original sources. They'll find either original documents or copies of, or people writing about how troops actually trained at the time, what they wore, examples of uniforms that still exist. They'll go to the primary sources from almost 250 years ago to learn how these people would have, and then adapt it and interpret it for what they want to do.
Wow. That's amazing. Because obviously you can't go to somebody who was there,
Yeah, there's no first-hand witnesses.
There's no video,
right.
To watch and say, okay, this is, what we want to do. But so, yeah, I would say go, if you are planning to go there to Fort Lawrence this Saturday or Sunday, go with great appreciation for what they have learned, what they're doing.
Yeah, they are historians in their own right.
Absolutely, they are. And to be able to do that and answer your questions and, like you said, Dante, give up their weekend and, honestly, be out there in the warm weather, not in the shorts and T-shirt that you're in, but in the wool uniforms.
Yes, wool uniform head to toe.
Head to toe, a wool uniform, which, can be tough. So, again, and we mentioned earlier that you guys have been having the revolution on the Tuscarawas for how many years, off and on?
Off and on for about 50.
Man, that's amazing. That's amazing. And I would imagine the community in the Bolivar area is appreciative of this, too.
Those that aren't right next door that don't want the cannon fire.
Yeah, they're like, rah. Yeah.
It's only one weekend a year, though.
So they put their dogs downstairs with,
I'm sure they have figured out exactly what to do for that. And we're, of course, always appreciative of the local community. We can't do it without the visitors, and we can't do it without the locals. So,
right.
Any support from any of them is more than greatly appreciated.
Okay, and so give us how much it costs and the hours again for folks.
So it's roughly from 10 to 4, and it's $10 for anyone 13 and older. 12 and under are free.
All right, that's very simple. And it's this Saturday and Sunday. Fort Lawrence is in the Bolivar area. If you get off 77 at 212 on the Bolivar exit, you just hang a right, go into, or a left if you're coming north.
Yeah.
But go towards Bolivar. Don't go towards Zor. Go towards Bolivar, and it should be very easy to find.
Yep.
Anything else, that you guys do other times of year that you want to mention?
Yeah, so we just got done on the 6th with our most recent speaker series. We have an annual speaker series both at Zor and Fort Lawrence where we have speakers come out and talk about things relevant to the site and history and that kind of thing. July 6th, we had someone who talked about the Wilderness War in Ohio. Very interesting talk. It was also one of probably the largest talks we've ever had with over 100 attendants.
Oh, wow.
So we literally could not house all of the people who came out. So I was surprised by how many people came out in a good way, but it was a surprise to just see car after car after car coming in for this talk. Coming up in August from the 18th to the 24th, we will be hosting a traveling exhibit that is from the Daughters of the American Revolution and was also in part from the American Battlefield Trust. The American Battlefield Trust and the Daughters of the American Revolution helped put the exhibit together, and it's traveling around, and it will be stopping at Fort Lawrence from the 18th to the 24th.
All right, and all the information that you want is at their website, which fortlawrencemuseum.org. fortlawrencemuseum.org. Well, we thank you so much, Dante, for coming up. We appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me.
Want to take a luxury boat tour in Miami? Want to taste wine in Napa?